Hey guys, in this month's Disney Rewind, I'm going to be doing a wrap up of all of the TV shows that I've watched on Disney Plus in the past like 6 months. Well, I feel weird doing this Disney Rewind. I never do these by myself. Me and my sister usually do these Disney Rewinds together every month. But yeah, I wanted to kind of just do my own Disney Rewind this month. Looking at my notes here, going down all of the Disney Plus TV shows that I've watched in pretty much like the last 6 months or so. This is all TV shows that I've not really had any sort of chance or opportunity to talk about on my channel. So yeah, this is just going to be a really quick wrap up of everything that I've been watching on Disney Plus, specifically TV shows. And guys, over here off to the side, if I remember to do this in editing, I'm going to put like the poster for everything over here off to the side. So yeah, if there's a particular show that you're just not interested in hearing me talk about, just kind of scroll the little YouTube bar down at the bottom until you see like the posters change. Maybe something will pop up that will strike your fancy, if you will. So yeah, up first, I'm going to be talking about Miss Marvel. This was a 6 episode series in the Marvel universe, you guys. Um, and I was really pleasantly surprised with Miss Marvel, you guys. I wasn't quite sure what to expect with it. The trailers looked intriguing, but it looked like just like a almost like a typical young adult show, like where a girl has superpowers and stuff. And I just wasn't quite sure how I was going to feel about that because sometimes the young adult genre can be hit or miss with me. But still, it takes place in the Marvel universe and connects in some fashion to like the MCU. So I still wanted to watch the show, give it a shot, see how it was. And as I mentioned, it was a pleasant surprise of a show. I absolutely thoroughly loved it. And if you don't know what Miss Marvel is about, it follows a teenage girl named Kamala Khan, and she's Pakistani American and played by Aman Vellani. And Aman Vellani, wow, this was just such a perfect role for her. I just really believed her in this role. You could just tell she was passionate about this character and the story. And yeah, the character of Kamala Khan, she just through some happenstance that happens, she ends up getting some superpowers. And on top of that, she is obsessed and she loves the superhero Captain Marvel, played by Brie Larson in the movies. So this whole 6 episodes is really Kamala's her journey as being a teenager and as being a young woman, and her kind of dealing with class work and school and her friends. And as I mentioned, she's Pakistani American, so she's dealing with that part of her life as well, and the fact that she's Muslim. And over the course of these 6 episodes, she's really starting to learn a lot more about kind of her origins and her family, where she comes from. It's really a whole series about identity and self-identity, family identity. And yeah, she just happens to have these superpowers on top of it. And she's saving and helping her friends and her school, and her community is a big part of it. Um, and I did. I just really thoroughly enjoyed Miss Marvel. Like I said, it's just a pleasant surprise. I wasn't really expecting too much out of it. I'm really glad I did give it a chance and watched it. And yeah, I really liked the MCU tie-ins to the show as well. The MCU tie-ins were really cleverly done and weren't forced or anything, because sometimes some of these shows will force in connections to the MCU, the greater MCU, and sometimes it does not work and can be hit or miss. And I think Miss Marvel kind of tied in those threads really nicely. And yeah, if there's a second season, I'll definitely be watching. Next up, She-Hulk. You guys, She-Hulk. I did not really quite like She-Hulk that much. I was really expecting to like She-Hulk way better than Miss Marvel, and that was not the case, and it's a little upsetting and a little disappointing. She-Hulk was 9 episodes, and the episodes were only like 30 minutes, you guys. They were very short, which I'm glad they were kind of short at the end of the day, because I was not having a good time with it. But then again, maybe the episodes need to be longer to get through more. I don't know. And yeah, it follows a woman named Jennifer Walters. She's an attorney, played by Tatiana Maslany. So, I mean, that was the big draw and appeal for me. was Tatiana Maslany. I freaking love Tatiana Maslany, you guys. And I thought she was just such an incredibly perfect choice for the character of She-Hulk. And yeah, She-Hulk is or Jennifer rather. Jennifer is the cousin of Mark Ruffalo's The Hulk, Bruce Banner character from the MCU. So I loved that connection there, her being a cousin to Bruce Banner. And yeah, kind of the same with Miss Marvel. Through kind of just some happenstances that happen, Jennifer, she gets in an accident, and this accident she gets the powers of the Hulk, but she becomes She-Hulk. That's the name she goes by, is She-Hulk. Um, She-Hulk, seriously, this show was a bit of a hot mess, I think. And like I said, I was very disappointed and frustrated with it. It was going through this angle of being like a comedy, and I don't know if the comedic angle was ultimately what it should have done. I feel like it maybe should have been a slightly bit more serious of a show rather than just straight out comedy, because sometimes it was verging into territory that was very meta, and Jennifer would like stare at the screen and break the fourth wall. Um, and sometimes some of that just would not work. The humor just felt really strange and weird and absurd, and I kind of was not digging a lot of it for the most part. It's like there's a great story in there. I liked Jennifer's story as she is becoming She-Hulk, and she's dealing with kind of a lot of misogyny going on around her, and all the comparisons to her cousin Bruce and everything. And at the same time, she has these powers, and she's trying to deal with her private life as well. She's having a really difficult time dealing with her life as a superhero and dealing with her life as just a regular woman with a job, and yet she just wants to find love and companionship, and yet now she's She-Hulk, it's kind of getting in the way because she wants people to see her as Jennifer Walters, not as She-Hulk. So yeah, when she's dating people, are they dating Jennifer or are they dating She-Hulk, you know? So there were things about the show that were working for me in that regard. And then, I mean, I liked the appearances of Mark Ruffalo, and yeah, we got the return of Tim Roth. Tim Roth was last seen in the original Hulk movie that had Edward Norton originally before it was Mark Ruffalo. I really liked seeing Tim Roth return in this. And then, yeah, we even get the return of Charlie Cox as Daredevil. Yeah, guys, because I was so upset when Netflix canceled all of the Marvel Netflix shows, and yeah, Daredevil was one of the best. So we even get the return of Charlie Cox as Daredevil in the mix, and I loved kind of that back and forth between him and Jennifer. So there were things that did work, but at the end of the day, She-Hulk was definitely a hot mess of a show. The comedy kind of fell flat in places. I wasn't particularly into the ending. Um, I don't know how I feel about a second season, to be quite honest. I don't think I'll be disappointed if it gets canceled. Next up, Andor. Andor was 12 episodes, pretty much a prequel to the Star Wars Rogue One movie, starring Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. Um, this show, you guys, wow. Out of everything that I'm about to talk about on this list here, Andor is the number one thing that I will number one recommend for everybody to watch, especially if you like the Star Wars universe and world and whatnot, or even if you're just a casual viewer of Star Wars. I think Andor is definitely going to be right up your alley. Seriously, Andor, what an incredible masterpiece of a show, you guys. I went into it kind of a little concerned, you know, because I feel like there's just too many Star Wars shows coming out, and it's like, do we need all of them? You need this show. This show is definitely important to just the overall world building of Star Wars and whatnot. And yeah, what this show is really kind of diving and digging deeply into, it's definitely getting into like the inner workings of what's going on in the Empire during this time period, and all of like the various different rebel resistance groups kind of going on as well. Um, it is much more of a kind of a slower paced show in some ways. You'll have kind of the random episodes where you do get a lot of moving forward action and action sequences and whatnot. But yeah, this show, it's not about all these wild and crazy action sequences like you might come to expect with like all the other Star Wars movies and whatnot. This show is definitely much more concerned with telling a really good character story and telling a really good plot, and really having a lot of like thematic messages and whatnot. Like I said, this is really digging and diving into the world of what the Empire's doing and what the rebel resistance units are doing. It's a very heavy political show. A lot of times when I was watching the show, I would often think, man, I feel like I'm watching like a political thriller at times. And yeah, characters are like doing heists behind the scenes and doing little things, working behind the scenes. That's just something I really fell in love with this show, because the movies really focus on like the larger, grander things, the greater scope of what's going on in the universe. And yet, Andor, the show, is digging into something much more smaller under the surface, because it's following like people who are part of the Empire, like just the small guys, not like Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine or anything like that. It's following the people who are working at the very bottom within the Empire. And then even with the Resistance, some of the things that they're doing, it's kind of like, well, this doesn't seem very big or important, but it's something small to them, something that's, even though it's small, it's important at the end of the day, and it will make a difference to some extent. Because yeah, like one of the big plot points in the episode, in the show, they have to go, like, Andor joins a group of people, and they're going after like payroll, like Empire payroll, and they got to steal a bunch of money and payroll information and stuff like that. It sounds like really just stupid and boring, but the thing is, it's so important. Payroll in the Empire, that's important. That affects so many people at the end of the day. So I loved what the show was doing. And yet, far and away, my favorite episodes, you guys, episodes 6 and 10. Wow. Oh my god. Don't get me started on like the season finale. I think I definitely cried on the season finale. But yeah, episodes 6 and 10, masterpieces of television just in general. And I do got to give a shout out to Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis does pop in it for a couple episodes in this show, and he stole the episodes he was in. I wish Andy Serkis could have got nominated for just a bunch of various different award shows for award season and whatnot, because his performance was that good. Oh my god. But yeah, also Diego Luna. Diego Luna, he doesn't really get too much to do in this show, even though he is Andor of the title. He doesn't really particularly get very much to do. His role is definitely much more behind the scenes and much more quiet. He tends to listen more than anything, and he kind of just follows. But yeah, I anticipate as the show continues and progresses, Cassian will get more and more just deeply and heavily involved into stuff. Because yeah, we gotta lead up to Rogue One, you guys, and we know how that ends. Next up, the Santa Clauses. So if you can't tell, the Santa Clauses is a 6-part season, 6-episode season, that is based off of the Tim Allen Santa Claus movies. But yeah, it's a TV show this time, and it's taking place like after the events that have happened in like the movies and whatnot. And you know what? I remember the first movie pretty well, and I think the second one, but I can't really tell you a damn thing about the third movie, unfortunately. And was there a fourth movie? I feel like there was a fourth movie. Maybe I'm just making that up. Maybe I just feel like there is. But yeah, I really like the first 2 Santa Claus movies. And yeah, when I heard that Disney Plus was going to have a TV show, I was like, oh, good. And this sounds kind of fun and cute, especially around the holiday season, because I think it came out around like November and whatnot, November of 2022. And yeah, the Santa Clauses, it's cute. It's fun, it's whimsical. If you love the Tim Allen Santa Claus movies, then you'll probably really like the show as well. And yeah, what the show is focusing on, it's focusing on Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus and their family. They have a son and daughter. And yeah, Santa's getting a little kind of frustrated and bored with life, and he kind of wants to focus on his family, and he kind of wants to do some other things. So he's essentially retiring from the Santa Claus business. But the thing is, in retiring, he needs to appoint a new Santa Claus. If you've seen the original Tim Allen Santa Claus movie, you know that how he became Santa. Santa was on the roof, Santa fell off the roof, died. That's how Tim Allen becomes the Santa Claus. So yeah, he obviously he don't want to die to pass on the mantle, so he has to find somebody to take over the mantle. This is where Cal Penn comes into play. Cal Penn works for like a big company, and it's kind of like Amazon. Let's put it this way. It's like Amazon. They're kind of poking fun at Amazon a lot over the course of this show. So what ends up happening over the course of the show, Cal Penn, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that he does become Santa Claus. He becomes Santa Claus, and he kind of turns Christmas into this whole thing that's like Amazon about shipping and getting things out speedy and quickly, and kind of making like Christmas a whole year round thing rather than just the one day a year and whatnot. And the thing is, it quickly turns into a disaster what Calpin is doing. So I had a lot of fun with the show. It was, like I said, it was just fun and silly, absurd in places. Just a nice little extension to the world of the Santa Claus if you do like and enjoy those movies. And yeah, the episodes were only 30 minutes, you guys. 6 episodes, 30 minutes. You could knock it out in a day if you wanted, to be quite honest. They're very easy and simple to get through. You don't have to really think over hard about them. Um, and yeah, I mean, if this does end up getting like a second season, I wouldn't mind. I don't think it's necessary, you know. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but yeah, a second season would be fine, and I wouldn't complain. Next up, Willow. This was a 8 episode first season. Hopefully we get more, because the final episode kind of hinted and teased the possibility of like a season 2 and 3. So let's hope we get a season 2 and 3, you guys. This was an 8 episode season. This is set 20 years after the Willow movie. The original Willow movie came out back in 1989. Starred Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer and Joanne Whaley. So yeah, this show's taking place 20 years after the fact, even though it's definitely been more than 20 years. It's been more than 20 years, but they're kind of going with that little time frame there and whatnot. And this was a fun show. You guys, I really enjoyed this show. It got a lot of hate. Let me put that out there. It definitely got a lot of hate. There was a lot of people that did not like this show, but I personally liked it. I found it really fun and entertaining and enjoyable. It knows what kind of show it is. It knows that it's rather absurd. And the thing is, even the original movie was just so cheesy and corny and all over the place. Don't even get me started about the special effects. And this show kind of plays with some of that to some extent. But yeah, it's definitely kind of its own thing within the universe, just kind of expanding out the world building that was already presented in the original movie. And yeah, the show, what ends up happening at the start of the show, we find out that the Val Kilmer character and Joanne Whaley's character from that original movie, they have 2 children, and in episode 1, the son is kidnapped, and his sister is like, hey, I want to go find my brother, let's rescue him. So this is where a bunch of other characters kind of form a little ragtag unit of characters who are going to go on this mission to go save her brother. And of course, this brings back in Warwick Davis's Willow character, who's kind of a bit of like a sorcerer, magician, something like that, to some effect. So this whole group of characters, like I said, they're just a ragtag bunch of misfits who probably really have no business going on a quest of this scale, but they're doing it either way because they got to go save this girl's brother and whatnot. Like I said, it was fun, entertaining, enjoyable. Some really nice twists and turns in there. From the original movie, there's a baby in the movie named Alora. One of our main characters is Alora. I'm not going to spoil, obviously, in this video. You do learn who Alora is by, I think, the end of episode 2, if I'm not mistaken. I think by the end of episode 2, you do figure out who Alora is, because the show kind of keeps you guessing there for 2 episodes. Okay, who is Alora exactly? It's just a really bizarre, whimsical, magical show that's a little silly and cheesy on occasion. It's definitely targeted towards a young adult audience. This is not for the show honestly is really not for the people who enjoyed the original movie. I have come to realize. So yeah, if you're willing to kind of give it a chance and just roll with it, I think you'll find some sort of entertainment value from it. And yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to like a second and third season, because the story definitely left off in such a place that I think there's some interesting things that could transpire. Next up, National Treasure, Edge of History. I was really looking forward to this one, yeah, guys. Is this show perfect? Hell no, it's not perfect. I think the first half of the show, it's a little kind of slow and meandering in places, but I think by the time you get to the halfway point, I think it starts picking up quite a little bit more, and a lot more of kind of what you know and love from National Treasure kind of comes into play a little bit more in the second half of the show. But yeah, if you don't know what National Treasure Edge of History is about, as the title suggests, this is a TV show that is based off of the world that has been established and set up in the Nicolas Cage National Treasure movies. Nicolas Cage is not in this show. You guys, let me put that out there. I think a lot of people went into this show hoping and expecting Nicolas Cage to pop up. He does not. This show is not about Nicolas Cage. This is about a group of teenagers kind of doing their own separate thing. Now, the character that Justin Bartha played, he played Riley in the National Treasure movies. Justin Bartha does pop up in one episode of the show, which I was kind of disappointed. I was really hoping Justin Bartha would pop up in at least a couple episodes. And then there is an FBI agent in the show who was in the original movies. I actually had to go look that up because he looked familiar, and I was like, was he in the original movie? So yeah, there is a male FBI agent. He was in the other two movies, and he has a really interesting role that continues into this show as well. But yeah, National Treasure Edge of History, it was 10 episodes. Teenage actors, pretty much all unknowns, but your big actor that you have in this is Catherine Zeta-Jones. Yeah, guys, Catherine Zeta-Jones, I think, is definitely worth just watching this show alone. Catherine Zeta-Jones is playing the villain of the show, interesting enough. Has she ever played villains before? I guess she has, yeah. I think here in her later career, she's been playing a lot more villains lately, I feel like, because yeah, she was on Prodigal Son. You guys, did anyone watch the season of Prodigal Son that she was on? Because she was great in that. But yeah, this show, it's following a group of teenagers. As I said, Catherine Zeta-Jones is kind of the villain. That's kind of the foil to what's going on in this whole show, and a lot of what's going on in this show has a lot to do with history that's involving either like Mexican history or indigenous people history. And that's something that I always really liked about just the National Treasure movies as a whole, because they always focused on history that maybe you kind of know some of the history, but then it digs deeper into other elements of that history, and then bringing up other people that maybe you never even heard of that had some sort of connection to that history. And that's definitely what this show is doing too. It's really giving a name and voice to a lot of people that you've probably never even heard of, that relate in some fashion to either Mexican history or indigenous people history. I really loved that aspect of the show and what it was exploring and kind of some of the thematic stuff going on. But yeah, this group of teenagers, they obviously, it's National Treasure. They get wrapped up into a whole big conspiracy that's going on that deals quite heavily with Mexican history and involving some sort of treasure that they gotta hunt down. This is where Catherine Zeta-Jones comes into play, because she wants this treasure for her own nefarious purposes and reasons that this group of teenagers, they need to stop her from abusing and whatnot. And yeah, our main character, her name is Jess. She's actually in the United States illegally, but she has like one of those passes, I guess. She has one of those passes that allows her to stay in the U.S. And this whole story is her story of learning about her origins, her family origins, her own history. She's very smart and intelligent. She is the Nicolas Cage of the show, in a sense, the person who has just all the answers. She's a know-it-all. And yeah, everybody else, her friend group, kind of have their own specialities and functions within the narrative, how they help her over the course of the show, much like what Justin Bartha and Diane Kruger did for Nicolas Cage's character in the original movie. But yeah, I really liked the show. A lot of people hated this show. I don't really understand why exactly. I thought it was really fun and clever. Like I said, the first half is a little slow and a bit meandering until you kind of get to the main bulk and purpose of what's going on in this show. But I think it kept building up to a really nice climax by the time you get to like episodes 9 and 10, and once you get some of the big twists and reveals out there. And yeah, the way the show ends, it definitely ends in a nice little, not a cliffhanger, it definitely does not end at a cliffhanger, but it definitely ends in a nice little way that's a little tease that the possibility that we could have a second season with this show. And yeah, I just really liked learning a lot of history, you know. There's just a lot of little historical little tidbits that are kind of thrown out at you randomly, and it's fun and entertaining and engaging. I like the show. And the last thing that I want to go over here really quickly, Werewolf by Night. And I don't think this is technically a TV show, because I know I've been talking about TV shows on this entire video. This is not technically a TV show, but I didn't know where else to talk about this. Because is it like, would you consider it TV or would you consider it a movie? I honestly don't know, because it's only like an hour. Yeah, Werewolf by Night. If you don't know what Werewolf by Night is about, it is set in the Marvel universe, you guys, weirdly enough. It never, I don't think it ever really shouts out anything in regards to what you know in the movies, though. It is kind of its own little separate entity. But yeah, it's about, I have to look at my notes here. It's about 5 experienced monster hunters who meet up at like this estate, and they're in this competitive hunt to determine a new leader of their group, because their previous leader is dead. So they're all at this meeting. They need to figure out who's going to be their new leader, and it requires them to go on a competitive hunt to kind of battle it out, kind of battle royale, Hunger Games style. If they got to kill each other, they got to kill each other, and then whoever is left alive, they are the new leader of the group of these monster hunters and whatnot. And yeah, this starred Gail Garcia Bernal and Laura Donnelly. And I really loved this show. It was so unique and different from just absolutely anything that I've seen in the MCU by far. It's definitely an experimental piece of Marvel here. Because, like I said, it's only like an hour. It tells a complete story from start to finish in an hour, and I liked the visual style of this as well, because they do it kind of like a traditional horror movie, like an old traditional black and white horror movie. Just the way it's filmed, and like even the sound editing, I loved the sound editing of it as well, because it kind of some of that crackling noise when you're watching old horror movies, just old movies in general, kind of that crackling sound that you get from old film. And even sometimes, like when you're watching old film, sometimes like there's little black spots that will kind of appear, where the film is kind of a little warped or faded or something. I think there's a technical detail for that, what it's called, but I can't think what it's called. It looked old. The way this was done, it looked old, like traditional horror. Like I said, because it's called Werewolf by Night. These are all monster hunters. You do get like a werewolf eventually that pops up in this show. Who is the werewolf? So I absolutely love this. It was creative, unique, different from anything that I've seen in the MCU so far. I would love to see more stuff like this, with Disney Plus experimenting with some of these just random stories within, like, Marvel comics and whatnot, because I've never heard of Werewolf by Night. I've never heard of Werewolf by Night at all. So yeah, the more experimental stuff that they do, I'm all for it, because a lot of times the more experimental they are, oftentimes it really works quite well and quite wonderfully. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with Werewolf by Night, and kind of the direction it went and where it went by the ending and whatnot. And yeah, I'm not quite sure if they're going to do more, I'm very curious. But yeah, Werewolf by Night was a great fun time. And yeah, if you're looking for something, because it came out kind of around like October for Halloween. If you're looking for something like kind of spooky, a little bit scary to watch around Halloween, I definitely recommend Werewolf by Night. So you guys, that is it for my quick wrap up of everything that I watched on Disney Plus in pretty much the last 6 months or so. Like I said, I just had nowhere else to really talk about these shows, and I really wanted to talk about them and talk about which ones I liked and which ones I didn't. But yeah, out of everything that I listed, I definitely recommend Andor at the very, very top. And if you had to skip something, you can probably skip She-Hulk, yeah, guys, because it was rather disappointing. So yeah, you guys, have any of you guys watched anything on this list that I talked about? What were your favorites? What were things that you didn't like so much? Just let me know. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.